good morning, or good day, or good afternoon, or good evening, depending on the time when you're watching this show. The show is called TBR, double SF, or TBR Solutions, Solutions Finance section. We are talking debt review. Now, the reason we do finance, TBR, those who know TBR is the big R, that's all it is. All the positive English words that starts with the letter R, reading, research, relationship, and so on. So we decided to shorten it to say TBR. For business purposes, the big R, it becomes too long. So TBR, it becomes shorter. And I was with Corrie the other day in a meeting. Corrie said, 3 words better. So thanks, Corrie, for that advice. TBR, that's what we call ourselves now. But in my logo, I made it a point that I keep the big R solution because I don't want to confuse people. I want people to continue to understand that they are linked. Leaders, these guys are leaders in their own right. Depending how you define leadership, I have my own way of defining leadership. Leadership is everywhere. It starts with the family. That's where leadership is. If there is clarity from the leader, then there will be clarity everywhere. So these guys are leaders. I'll tell you why I'm saying they are leaders. And these guys have been in the industry. We are talking debt review for some time. And they've done wonders, all right? For instance, Zak King took one of the boldest steps to do what you call the magazine. You know, to do a magazine, it's a task because he has to write, he has to look for the article, he has to edit, he has his job, you know. Not many people can do that. And when he started, it started small. And he's still sustaining that. But he will tell us more because this is very important. As you can see behind it says education. I'm all about education. Now, the reason why we educate, if we want to solve our problems, we need to understand what are we doing. Now, the best education, they say the best education is the experience. The best teacher is experience. So learn from the people who travel the road. I met Corrie not long, found him to be very interesting. Very interesting, we started the same year, 2008. So we are veterans in this area, in this department. So we had a very nice chat. He has worked for many companies, Octane, he named them. He has named, you know, now he has gone to another angle now. The angle of insurance, credit life, which is very important. Not only that, he's starting his podcast, which we want to talk about a little bit later. So I want you to have that background. We are just going to have a chat. And then, yes, we have an hour, but I want us to relax. I'll start by saying, guys, you know what happened to me? I met a friend of mine, my former colleague. His name is Mandla. I greeted him, hey, Mandla. He's got bald, I mean, beard, white, and so on, but I can still recognize him. Then he said, who's this? Later, I said, Sobra, it's you. He said, nah, I see a bald head. So I said, who's this guy? I said, man, we are growing, man. What do you expect? So it does happen. We change, you know? Yeah, let's start. Corrie, as I said, I want you to greet the viewers and introduce yourself. I've already done what I've done, but you can add what I left.
Thank you very much, Sobri. Hi, Zach. How are you? I hope you're well. So, yeah, it's been a journey, Sobri. I started in the debt review industry in 2008. I wrote my exam and I registered in 2009. My NCRDC number is 730. So a little bit more digits in yours. Yours is like in the 600s.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's been a journey. I've learned a lot in this industry. I've seen a lot of things, you know, and this is an industry like nothing else, the debt review industry. You think you've seen it all until tomorrow, and then you've seen something else. You know, it's amazing how things change in our industry. So yeah, as you mentioned, I started debt review, doing debt review for myself. Then I moved over to a large company, Octagen. I started there in 2012, and then moved over to the software side of it. And then about 2021, during COVID, I moved over to One, which is looking after credit life. They don't just do credit life. One is a large company, it's a national company, and we actually very much into commercial underwriting. But we look at the credit life, our little department, and with my experience, I've seen there's a big gap in the credit life space where we needed to look at treating the customer fairly and always looking at what's better for the consumer. That's very important for us. So the idea is to kind of get to a space where we look at what consumers are paying currently under debt review, and then if it's cheaper, then replace that credit life with the same product or better at a cheaper price. So you can kind of consolidate where he has 4 or 5 different credit agreements, all with different credit life. You consolidate that into one policy, and they actually go ahead and pay a little bit less. And there's a bit of a saving. They can go back into the debt to get the consumer out of debt quicker. So that's the whole idea behind the One space and the debt review space. CJ, and my boss, he's the person who actually invented the whole consolidation. He was into credit himself, and then he saw when the debt review space was starting to get big, he saw there was a big gap for credit life being replaced into one policy. So he decided on this, and it's a fantastic product. But yeah, that's basically my journey.
That's a nice one. That's a nice one. People don't understand that debt is very big. Debt is new money. 1971, when President Nixon decided to separate gold from dollar, the money game changed to become a debt. So if you don't master a debt, you'll never make money. Let me be honest and open. Debt review doesn't make money for me.
Yeah, look,
I'm
I
doing
agree.
it because I love it. All right. And it's not that I love it. I love the concept behind. I'm also doing what your boss is doing. I'm now in the financial services, which I love most. All right. I'm more of finance. So that's why I'm educating and all. That is why I've kept that review for me. And then you learn so many things new. You said you agree. I don't know why you wanted to add something.
Debt review is such an industry where if you're in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Debt review is not about making money. Debt review is about actually taking that consumer and taking him through a journey. It's not an easy decision for that consumer. And taking them through that journey of getting out of debt, teaching them how to actually work with cash. And I think when we met the other day, we mentioned this about saving. I mean, how many consumers in South Africa actually save money? They don't know how to save it because they don't know how to work with their money, because I think the education, it's an age-old tradition where you don't talk about money. Even at home, your parents don't talk about money. So our parents didn't teach us how to budget. Their parents didn't teach them how to budget. It's like a snowball effect. It never, and you mentioned this, when it comes to money, people don't want to talk about it. And I think that's important. And that's why I'm saying debt review is not about making money. It is absolutely about taking that consumer through the journey.
Zak, I know you've got a wealth of knowledge. I respect you so much. Firstly, like I said, for you, that guards of starting a magazine, I honor you. And you're consistent. Your magazine comes on time. Consistent is the king. And sometimes I ask myself, where does Zak get this time? Because he's doing this and that. Zak, you want to add on what he said about debt review. But firstly, just introduce yourself. Who's Zak Corrie? How did you come about? Just like he has done it with him and One and Octagon and so on.
Okay. Well, it's lovely to be back on the show, and it's lovely to see everybody again. Yeah, so I come from a more marketing background and market research in particular, and some counseling before I moved into the debt review space. Once I became a debt counselor, I asked around and I said, well, where's the magazine, the magazine about debt review? And of course, the answer I got at the time was, what are you talking about? There is no such thing.
You're talking about the new monster, and we don't know what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
So, yeah, we saw a real need, and we were able to, as a small group of volunteers, step into that gap. That was back in 2000, end of 2008, beginning of 2009. And since then, we've been busy every single month with the help of a lot of different people who I just want to say thank you to along the way, including companies who help cover some of the costs through advertising and so forth. And over the years, we've been able to give a lot of consumer education to
Sorry to cut you short.
Yeah.
And people don't advertise if they don't see value. So in other words, they saw value. So well done.
And as time has gone by, we've been able to cover a wide variety of subjects for people going through the debt review journey. As Corrie said, it's a journey. It's something that takes you years to get right. And along the way, you forget things or you come across new circumstances. So we try to provide the right information at the right time. We tackle some of those things that come along each year. Saving being one of the things that has already been mentioned. It's one of the things that's so hard to do when your entire focus for so long has just been, which credit provider's credit do I use to pay another credit provider to enable me to go shopping so that I can actually make ends meet. We've tried to help educate people along the way and just keep the information flowing in the debt review industry. Any industry, you've got different role players. So for instance, you've got role players like we've mentioned one. How do people find out about credit life insurance? How do they even know what that is unless they get told? So we all about sharing information, helping educate people. And I myself am a debt counselor, and I have faced various challenges over the years in helping people because, as Corrie mentioned, in a newer industry, things change. And just when you think you've got it handled, and I think you find the same, Salisbury, things change and then you have to adjust. So it's also a case of helping share that information with others in the industry and helping us all keep us on the same page. And we enjoy that, and we enjoy helping consumers to educate themselves.
You know what? Credit to you. I too, sometimes I would read from your magazine on things that I don't understand. I get a lot of good information. It's very informative. It very helps. And I must say, guys, we are talking finance. I'm not talking politics. That doesn't mean I don't have political affiliation. I do. But, I like separating things, all right? That's how I deal with my things. I don't want to talk politics because sometimes it polarizes. The CASA, for instance, which is a Debt Counselors Association of South Africa, started, all right? I can't remember who recruited me, but I was somehow recruited. Largely it was started by you guys, white people, and so on. I'm a former activist, so you need to be clear about that. And then I joined the CASA. By that time, it was Paul Scholes, Paul
Slot.
Slot,
Correct. Yes, yeah. Paul Slot, yeah.
I joined. Remember, Black people were not many in the space. And even now, I think there are not many. There were some of my comrades that knew that I'm an activist. So I think one of them spoke to me. I'm not talking bad about anybody. I just want to show you my approach, and I want this to be the approach. All right, but I cannot force it on people. They formed the Black Association, what, and then they passed this idea to me. Then I said, okay, fine, guys, I do attend the CASA, and then we discuss issues that are dealing with us. What is the reason of me now leaving these people going there? If you can tell me, yes, I understand you are from the same background and We'll understand each other better. But now, for me, what is missing? What is it? I could not get an answer. Then I said, probably, is it about the position? I'm not a position man, all right? Because I say I can make a change even if I'm not a chairperson. I don't have to be a chairperson to make changes. Then this is one thing, I still have to interview those guys of DICASA because for me, they did something very good. Then they started the website, no, Facebook page. We asked questions there. At some point, Zak answered me. You know, you get answers quickly. Is it like this? For me, that's what matters. All right? For me, it's my clients. You see, if I protect my clients, I'm the happiest man. All right? Now, I'm not promoting you guys, DICASA, over the other people. I'm just saying my experience. All right? But really, if I'm treated unfairly in a racial way, I'll take it head on. I'll never even mince my words. I'll go straight and say, no, don't deal with this thing with me. And I don't want your political affiliation. I'm not talking about politics. I'm just giving you the background, how I approach things. And correctly, I want you to understand me. Corrie, I was with you, I never spoke politics. I don't do that. Zak, I've spoken to you, I don't talk politics. I talk what we talk, all right? I'm saying this because I want us to separate things. And I know that we're not for that. As I said, we are educating. Maybe what I share may be wrong. Remember, no one has a monopoly of right. But I can share my idea. What do you say to that statement? Don't buy my face. Say what you say. If you see something DICASA is doing wrongly, the other group, I don't know whether it still exists in that group, because I just ignored it. No, you know what? I don't see any problem. If things are, if I get what I want, I'm okay. I'm fine. Let me do my business. Anyone wants to say something? In brief, quickly, on my statement.
I'll just also compliment DICASA on the hard work that they've done over the years, because when I first joined the industry, I heard about DICASA, and at the time it was quite small. The other day when we were at that conference, there were a couple hundred people together, all on the same page, trying to kind of share resources and share expertise. And I really also, like you said, it's consistency over the years. So there've been different people taking a leadership role there. At the moment, there's some very hardworking people who I get to see quite regularly because they live down the road from me, not too far. And I really must compliment them on the hard work they do.
Okay. No, that's all about Corrie. What do you want to say? And guys, get me clear. I don't bash the other group. They have a right.
No, of course.
Remember, the Constitution allows us. And I'm not saying they're doing something wrong, but I'm just giving a background, what it formed me. I may be wrong, maybe they're correct. I still want to be correct.
Sorry, Aubrey.
No
sorry. In my opinion, you know, the CASA has been there almost from the beginning, and they've always had the industry's best interest at heart. They obviously have meetings at CIF level, the Credit Industry Forum, where they always take small things to the banks, and they have discussions that helps for the industry. You know, we very, very much support the CASA when it comes to one. We try and have their meetings now at our offices in Joburg because we feel they are absolutely benefiting the industry. I never got to deal with the other industries, the other forums, because they're not as, in my opinion, vocal, or they're not as out there for the debt counselors. So I haven't really spoken to them or dealt with them, but what I've dealt with the CASA, I mean, the CASA has always been a friend to the industry, and they really take the debt counselors' interest at heart.
You know what I like in passing? Paul, when he left, I was very devastated. Because what I used to like about Paul would interact with creditors and all that. But if they are wrong, he would take them head on. That's what I prefer. You must be principled. Don't just say, I'm doing it because they are my friends. Well, that being said, let's move on. Now, one, credit life. I want you guys to explain because people don't understand how important credit life is. I want you to tell us a little bit, what is credit life? Why is it necessary for people to have credit life as part of the plan, of the restructuring plan that I have?
So, sorry, I think first off, people don't actually know they have credit life when it comes to applying for debt. It's always in the small writing with fynskrift, if I can use an Afrikaans word. It's always there, and people actually don't understand
Afrikaans, I'm not good at it.
So fynskrift is that small little letters at the bottom of at the bottom of your contract. So consumers don't know what they're paying. Also when it comes to interest rates, but that's a whole new meeting we can have about interest rates. But when it comes to credit life, the idea behind credit life is to pay your debt when you can't, in a nutshell. So let's say you are either retrenched or you've got a disability, temporary or permanent disability, or even death. So those things are covered by this policy. It's we charge a per thousand, an amount per thousand that's outstanding on the debt, and the idea is
give me the numbers there because it's important. I want them to get it clear.
Sure.
1,000,
so maximum,
how much, and all that. Yeah, so that people can also make their own assessment as they compare.
So the maximum they are allowed to charge, we are as insurers are allowed to charge R4.50 per thousand. That's the maximum that's allowed. And one's got a product at R2.95 per thousand. So there's a bit of a saving per thousand for the consumer. So in terms of 100,000, if you have 100,000 rand debt, your installment will be about 450 rand. And then for us at one, it'll be about 295 rand. So there's a big saving in terms of what you'll pay, and that difference, the debt counselor can then use and pay towards the debt to get you out of debt quicker. So the whole idea is to replace if it is cheaper. And this is not just for debt review consumers. This is for any consumer out there that has debt. If you have a policy and you want cheaper insurance, one can assist. It's for anybody that's got debt. So basically what will happen is in case of death, we will settle the debt. We will settle whatever is covered in that policy. When it comes to a permanent disability, we'll obviously also settle. And in terms of retrenchment, we'll pay up to 12 months. So if a consumer is retrenched and he cannot pay his debt, we'll then pay those installments for up to 12 months. Or if the consumer gets a job.
Not 3 months.
12 months.
Good.
12 months. It's huge. It's really is huge because, if you look at the way things are going out there, people are losing their jobs. In the beginning of this year, I think I heard in Cape Town, there was a massive loss of jobs in the Cape Town, in the Western Cape area. So we are going through those times where people are starting to retrench, especially during the COVID season. It was very, very bad. We had a lot of claims in that time where people weren't getting paid, where they were retrenched. It was a very difficult time, and we settled our claims, and the consumers could actually get their debt paid for up to 12 months, which makes a big difference. It takes that stress off you, Sobri. It takes that absolute stress that how am I going to pay my debt this month? And if you're retrenched, it's fine. You've got that backup.
You know what? What I like in your input, which is the industry practice, you don't mention other company and belittle them. You are mentioning your product, which is important. I think people need to understand that. We need to respect each other. And let me go back to Zak. Zak, I want to, let me say this to you, Zak. The way I understand that review, which is a lot of people are missing, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, because your knowledge is vast. I respect your knowledge. That review, for me, it's more of a legal protection than any other thing. Now, people make mistake. They think that debt review is to pay less. Paying less is an added value. The first and foremost purpose of it is legal protection. Because when they attach your assignment, your asset, they'll go to court and get the court order. Now, with debt review, you'll have a court order. So you can't have a court order on top of another court order. In addition to that, that's my understanding, which may be wrong. That's why I want you guys as my leaders to guide me. In addition to that, you'll have creditors out of their own volition because they understand what you want to achieve, reducing their interest rate. Remember, the reduction of interest rate, that is their money, that is the commission that they are supposed to get. And interest rate, when it's being reduced, it's not 100 Rand or whatever, it's in percentage. 1% can mean a lot. 1% can mean a long period. Am I correct, Zak, by understanding you? There is any other additional information that you want to add?
No, absolutely. It is a legal process. And that's something one needs to remember. If you're ever talking to someone on the phone about debt review, you're talking about quite a serious legal process. This is not something you do just to save a few bucks on the side. This is what you do when the chips are down and you really can't find a way out. You're not making ends meet on a monthly basis. And I think, to me, the second benefit that comes, other than protecting your assets, is knowing that at the end of this month, you're going to be able to get electricity. You're going to be able to go to the shops and buy the food you need. You're going to make sure that your kids' school fees are paid. You're not going to have those stresses because you know that that's taken care of. You worked with someone who's an expert on your budget, and you know that your debt is taken care of. So that legal aspect is very important, much like Corrie's mentioned insurance. Insurance actually plays an important part in our role in this process, because as a credit provider, they want to know that they're going to get their money. So one of the things they're insistent on as an industry is, please, let's have insurance on our accounts just in case you can't pay. Of course, they may be charging more than you could find at another provider, like one could provide you with a cheaper option that covers you for the same benefits and is specialized for the needs that you have. But all these things, they form part of a global pattern, a holistic experience that's taking you from month to month. And as you're going through that experience, your debt is slowly reducing. And I think that's very important. It may take time. You know, all of us, when we have debt, we love to spend the money. Paying it back is not the easy part.
Paying it back when there's lots of unpalatable one. Unpalatable one, paying back.
Yeah. And when there's lots of interest, of course, that's a challenge. So one of the best things that one experiences in debt review is when the credit provider comes to the party and says, you know what, let's take that interest rate down from 20-something%. Let's take it down to 0%. It's like your mind explodes. You're like, wow, these guys are being so generous. But what they do want is they want to get their capital back, and they want to enable you to do that in a consistent manner. So debt review is very much about consistently covering your monthly costs, consistently covering your debts, and having that protection that you've mentioned, that legal protection, knowing nobody's going to come and try anything funny. And if they do, then the attorneys will get involved and make sure you're protected. So it's a great process that really can help when times are really tough. It's not something to be done just as an option. It's something to be done when there's few other options. That's a better way of looking at it.
Let me put it this way. People maybe are not aware that debt is a right, it's not a privilege. Remember when I said the money change? We need money to survive. For survival is a right. That is why your house, if it's under debt review, we try by all means to protect it because it's a right. The same with debt. All right. I like the way you covered it. I'm quite happy with that. And then the other thing, and as you said, Zak, that is why right from the beginning, even if whether under debt review or what, because it's a business decision. When you buy something, you will always add credit life, life cover and all that. because they want to safeguard themselves. They want to survive. There's nothing wrong. So people like one play a major role. You understand? So in trying to help us, to be able to do all these things debt free and so on. Now, I want to also elaborate on this, Zak. You have a client. Remember, at some point, when we started, I started 2008. It was tough. We're calculating manually. We were fighting us and the debt and the credit. It was fight all the time. People under debt review, they take it being under debt review. It was just a war. It was a war zone. So it developed as time goes on. But there is this, I wanted to say something about this, Zak. I'm coming to you, Corrie, because I want to talk about one. There was this 2 months period, all right? So people are calling it holiday. I wanted to talk about that. And there's also a myth that who's going to pay you as a debt counsel? I want you to elaborate on that. Another benefit that people don't understand. Debt review, I get a summons or I get something, a demand. I can go to a debt counselor, not having money and say, put me under debt review. Without paying money, then I'm already protected. Can you elaborate on those issues that I raised?
Okay, so the thought of these 60 days comes from the wording of the National Credit Act. The National Credit Act has a reference to 60 days during which, when the debt review starts, credit providers would not be taking any legal action. It wouldn't be necessary for them to, because you had now taken the positive step of initiating this process. And as we know, debt review goes to the courts, and so there would be a legal outcome anyway. And everybody would have their say. So the consumer would agree, this is what I want for my debt review. The credit providers would say, we're happy to accept this arrangement or that arrangement. And the court would have a look at it. The magistrate would have a look, and he would exercise judicial oversight and say, yes, everybody's happy, or I think this is how it's going to work out. And it would become a court order to give you that protection. But when you say 60 days in a document like the National Credit Act, people start to get a bit confused. They think, well, maybe during the 60 days,
money holiday. I've got cash
maybe
in
I
my
can have a
pocket.
money holiday. Well, here's a small secret for you. If you want a money holiday, just never pay anyone. You can have a permanent money holiday, but of course they're going to come for you. So it's not a great idea. The idea being with debt, because of interest and charges, if you don't pay anything, those balances go upwards instead of coming downwards. So that's something we're very sensitive to in the debt review space, as you will advise people, pay towards your debt so that your debt doesn't grow and grow and grow. So in debt review, we constantly try to get to that point where the debt is getting smaller, because to us, that's the whole point. There are some other protections in the law, but let's not go into that. Right. So when we initially started debt review back in the day, it was a bit of a war because we had less experience, and a group of less experienced people were trying to deal with the organizations who've been around for hundreds of years, and maybe they had a slightly better understanding of what would happen. So some debt counselors may have encouraged people not to make payments, but pretty quickly as an industry, we all decided, now, you know what? If you're going to settle your debt, you need to pay towards your debt. It's a case of finding the reasonable figure. So that is a big focus of debt reviews, to come up with that reasonable figure that ensures you've got what you need for the month, but also to cover other costs. So one of those costs being the debt counselor. How does the debt counselor get some money? Well, as an industry and under the guidance of the National Credit Regulator, as well as the CASA back in the day, we all figured out, okay, these are the kind of professional costs that are involved. This is how many hours it takes to work out a debt review. And so this is a reasonable amount of money to pay as a professional fee towards the debt counselor. And that normally happens primarily in the first month of debt review. So in the first 30 days somewhere, when you pay your figure, whatever it is, If it's 1,000 Rand a month or 4,000 Rand a month, whatever it is that you're going to end up paying back, that money, some of it, was allocated to the debt counselor. And then as an industry, as the norm, we started in the second month taking some of that money and making sure it was set aside for legal costs, because as we know, attorneys and lawyers, well, there's costs there that when you go to court. So because it's a legal process, a little bit of money gets set aside there. And that happened to fall within those 60 days that we were talking about. At the same time, there is still focus in the industry, even during those 60 days, that if there are available funds, put it into the accounts that are in need of money, so the credit providers. And what's nice is the credit providers, they all came to an understanding of that. And as the industry, they realized, okay, well, a month one, we may not get so much money. We may get 1 Rand, we may get 50 cents, or we maybe get 150 Rand, depending on what was available. And they were happy with that. Month 2, same thing. They realized, okay, it's fine. We realized we're going to get a little bit less money this month because it's going towards some of the fees. As a consumer, what's great about that is that you only pay one amount every month. So when you enter debt review, your debt counselor is going to say to you, based on your needs, this is how much you've got for your budget, but based on what's left, here's how it's going to get split up. And you know that figure almost from, the first week or so of debt review. And then once your court order comes through, you know that figure. So every month, for me, okay, I'm going to pay 3,222 Rand every single month. And that's it. You stick to that figure and it just stays. You pay that figure and it was worked out. But what some people still get confused about is this thought of a payment holiday. It's very, very bad not to pay into an account that's accruing interest. You will start to lose money. And with debt review, of course, one of the best things about debt review is that the interest rates change. If those interest rates stay the same, you will pay until you're an old person, paying off a tiny amount over many, many, many years. But that doesn't benefit anyone. Even the economy, it doesn't benefit. So the fact that the credit providers lower their interest rates enables us to get back into the industry, get back into credit use if we want to down the line, and really speeds up the process. And these days, and Corrie will back me up here, people, when they receive a little bit of extra money, maybe they get a small increase at work, or their second job that they're trying out is starting to generate some money. If you can put that money into your debt review payment as well, it can really speed things along.
Zak, well said, well said. And I have a feeling, remember me and you, we thought we'll do it once a week. Hey, it becomes difficult. The three of us will come together once a month now. Okay, because I also want to engage creditors now. I also want to engage, you'll help me, Zak, you deal with these guys. The first one, of course, will be Denise. Denise helped me very much at some point. I'm still grateful. Even today, when I see her, I tell her, Denise, you helped one of my clients. This client of mine was losing a house, a single parent with 3 children. So I had to go to her. Thanks to Russell, you remember Russell? Russell Sabri said, don't waste time. Go and see the head of that review. Is Denise. I said, I know Denise. Denise attended one of my events. I went there. It was very difficult, but she sorted out. Even today, that client of mine is still grateful. So if she agrees, that client of mine, I want to have her and Denise to share the story. But you know how these people they don't want to be known. You see, I don't know, me, I'm a different animal. I talk about my debts. Hey, if you read my books, you'll see, hey, it was bad, man. It was bad. But I love it because if I talk about that, you teach others to say, well, you burn your fingers. That's me. But no, people are not the same. Zak, I just want to go to Corrie now. I want us to talk about one. Corrie, I want you to tell me about one. Why should we see one differently? And who's one? When we have big guys like Old Mutual, you name them, Metropolitan and so on, who have built themselves over the years. Confidence is sky high for those people. Remember, in business, trust is number one. Now, this is an opportunity. We started with you. I know that you're going to have a YouTube. I'm happy you guys to do it. But I want you to tell people, take this opportunity. Tell them about one. What is one? Who are you? How strong are you? What is the balance sheet and all that? Remember, people get confidence on those issues. It's like when you go to stock market, you don't just buy a company. You don't know what is the balance sheet. You don't know who's the leader. And then if a company has a lunatic, I won't buy my shares there. Yes. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's your opportunity. I want you to talk about one. And guys, as I said, this is not for the last time. Ne? We'll do it. Preferably, I want to do it on Fridays. Let me tell you why. Fridays, I'm not so much busy. But unfortunately, this Friday, a friend of mine who's a district director at the education department, they're having a conference at the Emperor's Palace. He wanted me to be there, all right? And then I said, no, I'll be with you. You are my friend. Remember, big R, relationship. I'm all about relationship. Building relationship for me is good. And I come a long way with this guy. So I had sorry guys to inconvenience you, to move it from Friday to Thursday. But normally I do Fridays. So we'll talk when are we going to do it. But Zak, I want you to help me out. I also want the head of that review. I've got Yaku now from ABSA and then Roxanne from Standard Bank. Although Standard Bank, I tried, there were so many politics. Hey, we don't talk about, you know, but you know better. You've dealt with these guys. But there are those that I have a very good relationship with. I'll talk to them. Like Denise, I want Denise to be the first one. Denise, I know we once tried it, and then she told me protocol, what, I say, it's another story. But this is what I want to do. Now, Zak, we'll talk next time, but you can hang around, be part of this discussion. You can add anything about one because you have had experience. So, Corrie, it's your chance. You have about as much as 10 minutes. The last 5 minutes, I want you to do your parting ways. Because if it's too long, more than an hour, it's difficult when you edit it. And when you want to post it, it becomes difficult. Corrie?
Sorry, I just wanted to mention if we could touch on the podcast, that'd be great as well.
No problem. Whichever way you prefer.
I've been very lucky that.
But what I like most, I want to understand one. You can start with podcast, it's okay. Do what you think is good that you want to push. Remember, we're helping each other here. I want you to advance whatever that you want to advance.
Perfect. Well, thanks, Aubrey. So one is a commercial underwriter, huge commercial underwriter. One's been around for many, many years. We've got national branches. Our Cape Town office just moved. We actually bought the spot that we got our Joburg office in. We've got national offices. We do a lot of goods in transit insurance. We do agriculture, personal lines, education, hospitality, sectional titles, fuel stations. There's so many things that one does. So one is a huge company. It really is a big company. Most of our senior leaders have been in the company for more than 10 years. Some even go up to 15 years that they've been with the company. It really is a fantastic company to work for. We've got
just to cut you short, what I enjoyed, you have a canteen there with drinks.
Yes.
And then they eat, and your employees, they eat there. They don't have to bring their lunchbox. That was brilliant.
That's right.
That was
it's fantastic. Yeah, the staff are very lucky that if you work at the office, you get breakfast every morning, and you get a lunch every day. The company, we've got chefs on staff. We've got a nice barista there. So if you want tea or coffee or whatever you drink, you're more than welcome to come pop in. Just let me know if you're going to be there, and we'll go grab some coffee.
And I bring my empty stomach. That's the only thing.
Yes. We'll organize lunch next time when you come. So we will definitely organize a lunch. So it's really is nice. The culture in the company is fantastic. There's no staff turnover, which is great. That's normally a sign of a good company. I think if your staff's happy, then your company's happy. My direct line manager, CJ's a fantastic guy. He's very, very well known in the industry. People know who he is. He's absolutely a thinker. He's all about the energy. What you put out in the universe is what you get back. I would also want to say is, how do you measure an insurance company? You measure it by the claims that are paid out. We've got a very good record in terms of paying claims, and I think that's where you can measure an insurance company. Um, so yeah, it's probably the in the industry we're very well known. I mean, we've been around in the debt review industry. I think about 2012 when I went to my first DCASA meeting. I remember there was the banner, the one banner. I went there and talked about credit replacement. I mean, nobody knew what credit life replacement was then, and one started this whole thing. We've always, I know for a fact, they've been a good friend to the Debt Review Awards. They've got the two sponsors there, which is upcoming now in October. The Debt Review Awards coming up in
I want
October.
Zak to talk about that in his
I'm
closing.
very excited. It's one of the two highlights of the year. The one is the DCASA annual conference. It's a very big highlight for us. And then the Debt Review Awards obviously is a big highlight for us in the year. We all love dressing up and putting on our penguin suits and actually going
Look
to
good,
to
look
see who
good.
the
That people
yes.
can see that we can look good sometimes.
Yeah. So we want to see who the industry leaders are. And I think it's very important that there are stuff like that, because it's something to strive to as a debt counselor. Just to be mentioned in the top 10 is already is great. In each section, there's a top 10 company, and we as one have two awards every year that we look at people that's one in the legal side of the industry and one more in the operational side of the industry that really try and make a difference. And we've had the big names that you've mentioned, Paul Slot. We've had Timmy van der Gryp. We've had Denise Hartley, Yaku. All those have been actual winners of the awards, because they actually step up and they make a difference in the industry. And that's what one is about in the debt review industry. We want to make a difference. We want to make it's about the consumer for us.
Can I also break a little bit? I was also nominated among the smallest at some point, and Zak still owes me how to put it on my signature. I haven't done it. So he said to ask somebody so that when I send my signature, they can see that Sobri also was appointed for something else.
I'm sure we'll soon see the
Let's go to podcast now, because I'm worried about time. We still have a lot. We are still going to talk. Don't worry. Sure. Let's go to podcast, because that's one thing that we wanted to talk about. I want you to talk about podcast, and then after that, I'm going to allow Zak to speak about the awards, and then we close so that we move on. Yeah.
So about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago, it was actually more than that ago, I started talking about writing a book. I even spoke to Zak about writing a book, and he gave me some ideas. I must write down stuff that I want to talk about. And I thought to myself, who's really going to read my book? I'm just a.
I was going to be the first one to read it.
The fish in a pond. I'll be a fish in a pond. And I was thinking about, writing about my experience in the industry, because there's so many changes that we've gone through in the last, Debt Review is now 16 years old this year. And there's so many changes that we went through. From the starting days where we had to fax our Form 17-1s through to the credit providers, and we had to stand by the fax machine at 8 o'clock at night because you couldn't get through during the day, So, those were the days. Now everything's done by a press of a button. So the industry's come a long way. And the idea was to write a book about the industry. And then I thought, are people really going to listen to me or really read my book? And then last year, I spoke to CJ. We were at one of the CASA representatives, that's also a debt counselor, Nadia, in Cape Town. And as we finished the meeting with her, I said to CJ, I was thinking of starting a podcast. And CJ said, well, yeah, let's, do it. Go for it. And I asked him if he'll sponsor some of the episodes, and he said, sponsored by one? Yeah, no, go for it, he says. And I thought, okay, well, who's going to really have the reach, to actually help me with this podcast. And only one name popped up, and that was Zak. And there was
Yeah.
there
Zak,
was absolutely
Zak King.
no other.
The surname
There was
tells you
absolutely
Zak King.
yes, yeah. I mean, you're right. He's the king. So who else? To go to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I approached Zak, and Zak said, "Look, let's try it." And I said to him, "Look, I'll do whatever needs to be done." And he's got a team that helps us with the editing, which is fantastic. So, Cora, thank you for that. We got Lee that's helping us out with the admin side of it. So it's, I mean, his whole team has just stepped up, and it's been such a pleasure to do.
You'll
And
help
if I
me
can just
too. You'll help me to put up that team.
absolutely. So it's Debt Review
Yeah.
with Dummies. For those who want to know, it's Debt Review with Dummies. And when we refer to dummies, we refer to the hosts. I'm the dummiest dummy, and I always say that in my podcast. And
Yeah.
then Zak is always the clever one between the dummies. But so yeah, it's fun. It's all about promoting the industry. So the idea is to chat to consumers that's gone through the process, and they tell their stories. They tell their stories about how the decision was made for them. We speak to debt counselors. We speak to DeCasa. We've spoken to PDAs. We've got all of them on the podcast. And the idea is also to get the stories of those people, like you mentioned again, people that started the industry. The idea is to get someone like Chris van der Straten that's recently left the industry, and Rob Eastenbury that started it was Eastenbury's then. Now it's Consumer Friend. That's how far we've gone back. And to tell those stories about how they started in the industry and how things changed. So that was the initial idea behind the podcast. And it's so far we're about 13 episodes in. It's going really, really well. It's fun. It really, really is fun to do it. And I couldn't have asked for a better partner to do it with.
Thank you, man. Lovely. You've mentioned Consumer Friend. They used to have this guy. I once interviewed him, Justin. That guy was brilliant. Very brilliant. Dummy, there you are. That guy, it's only me who don't have it. You'll send
Well,
it
what I
to
will
me.
say,
When I come, then I'll have one. Justin, is Justin there? I'm told he's left
yes,
Consumer Friend. Where is he?
Justin is now working as an attorney because that is his background, and he's helping debt review consumers and debt counselors with running their practice and getting their matters through court. So if anyone's looking for legal assistance,
Do you have his
great.
contact? Do you have his
Yes, I'll share
contact?
them with you. Yeah,
The guy was brilliant. I like excellency.
And one of the nice things about being one of the dummies on the show, on the podcast, is that we get to hear people's journey. That sometimes as a debt counselor, we get to talk about the problem quite a bit. The problem is the debt, and it can turn into a mathematical thing if we're not careful. And then when we get a chance to actually speak to people about what's it like to be under debt review, what's it like to switch to a lifestyle of cash, of dealing with challenges without the access to credit, it's it's interesting, but it's also educational for us. So at the end of each show, I admit we learn something new from every person that we've spoken to, and that's really a great experience on the podcast. Yeah.
The awards. The awards.
Okay, so the Debt Review Awards is a way of recognizing people who are doing very well in the debt review space. So you could think of it kind of like the Oscars, but for debt review.
For debt review.
Right? So we get together and we, as an industry, identify people who are doing well. And it's done by asking the debt counselors during the year to review the credit providers, and the credit providers during the year to review the debt counselors. And I must just say there are thousands of different people in this industry. But everybody gets an opportunity if they're registered with the National Credit Regulator to be involved and to be considered. And towards the end of the year, or our year, like now, we start to identify those people who consistently getting high ratings from everybody. So that's something that's quite exciting around this time of year. Pretty soon we'll start to get those top 10 names like Corrie was saying, which is exciting. If you, out of a couple thousand people, are identified as one of the top 10 in your space in the industry. It's
a
real
big thing.
accomplishment.
It's a big thing. That's why I want
And then-
mine and say, send it, man. Because it's like I've never been recognized, but you did. Send me that one. You know, the problem is I'm limited when it comes to technology. I don't know how to put it on my signature so that people can see that they are. At least they know.
Hey, if you want to get anything done, ask a teenager. And then at this time of year, so coming up next month, we have a gala, as Corrie said. Everybody gets dressed up smart. Corrie even won a competition once for being so nicely dressed at the awards. He took a prize for that. And we all get together and we hear the announcements of those peer reviews that are done through the year. And we have an opportunity to spend some time together and to hear from those with a lot of experience in the industry. We get to hear from some of the regulators and what's happening in the industry. So we get a catch up. It's a very nice arrangement, because I think one of the things that happens when you're dealing with debt problems is, other than it just turning into maths, is it can be a bit antagonistic. And as someone who works in the industry, it can also just make you very tired. You know, you're not getting recognized. So I think it is important in our industry just to recognize the hard work of every debt counselor out there trying to help consumers, to recognize the hard work of the consumers in the process, to say, well done in sticking with the process. And then also to go to the credit providers and say, you guys, your department is the best department in the entire organization. You are the ones that are trying to help people get out of debt. And so when you meet people like Denise, who you've mentioned, or others we've mentioned, Yaku, these are people who, when they wake up in the morning, their objective is to help consumers get out of debt, which is, for a credit provider, quite unusual. And so these are lovely people that we get to work with, and it's lovely to get to recognize them. And one, as mentioned, they sponsor and organize 2 of the awards that go to people, individuals who we all know. We know them. When we hear their names, we go, yo, that person, what a great person to work with. And it's lovely that one is part of that process and help us identify those people within our industry. So it's quite exciting. We're looking forward to it. That's coming up on the 20th of next month. So 20th
of next month. Okay,
yes.
That's what it happens. Where?
So actually, we live stream from YouTube. So if you're anywhere and you've got access to YouTube, you're welcome to watch. 20th of October, you can find it on the Debt Free YouTube page, or you can just type in Debt Review Awards and you'll immediately find the channel. So everyone is welcome to watch. The actual physical in-person event this year is happening in Joburg. We tend to bounce between Joburg, Durban, and Cape Town. So it's up in
Joburg, where about?
In Woodmead.
Woodmead,
So
okay.
A little bit north of Sandton.
Yeah,
it's happening that side. And we all get together, and like we said, it's not a very fancy thing, but we all dress up quite nice and we spend some
try
time.
to look to be nice. All right, so that people can like us again.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate Zak. And I must say, in my parting ways, Yaku from APSA, I spoke to him in the first meeting. APSA, it was a chaos. Now, just before the CASA conference, the standard was there. Said now 17.1 COB. I said, excellent. Then when I went there, my people were saying, thanks, man. Keep up the good work. He's doing a very great job. And that's what I want. That is what I was telling you about Justin. Justin was one of the guys I found to be very efficient. I like that. I like people who are efficient because I want to be efficient myself too. So you learn from others. Guys, thank you very much. I took your time in your busy schedule. We'll reschedule another one for just now to elaborate on what we are doing. Let's continue to push as much as we can. Zak, good luck with everything, with the awards. Midrand is Whitmead is not far from me. I'll see where I'll be able to come, but I'm going to try to be there. And then Corrie, me and you, we interact all the time. Okay. Thank you very much, and good luck with everything, Corrie. Guys, thank you for your time. Thank you for your time. It's very important. Me, time is important. I really appreciate. Okay. I cannot be perfect. I can only improve as we do. All right. Thank you, guys.